Our daily Bible reading for March the 5th. Our reading today comes from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 12. We'll be reading verses 1 through 17. And he began to speak to them in parables. A man planted a vineyard and put a fence around it, and dug a pit for the winepress, and built a tower, and leased it to tenants, and went away into another country. When the season came, he sent a servant to the tenants to get from them some of the fruit of the vineyard. And he took him and beat him and sent him away empty-handed. Again he sent to them another servant, and they struck him on the head and treated him shamefully. And he sent another, and him they killed. And so with many others. Some they beat, and some they killed. He had still one other, a beloved son. Finally he sent him to them, saying, "They will respect my son." But those tenants said to one another, "This is the heir. Come, let us kill him, and the inheritance will be ours." And they took him and killed him, and threw him out of the vineyard. What will the owner of the vineyard do? He will come and destroy the tenants and give the vineyard to others. Have you not read this scripture? The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. This was the Lord's doing, and it is marvelous in our eyes. And they were seeking to arrest him, but feared the people, for they perceived that he had told the parable against them. So they left him and went. And they sent to him some of the Pharisees and some of the Herodians to trap him in his talk. And they came and said to him, "Teacher, we know that you are true and do not care about anyone's opinion. For you are not swayed by appearances, but truly teach the way of God. Is it lawful to pay taxes to Caesar or not? Should we pay them, or should we not?" But knowing their hypocrisy, he said to them, "Why put me to the test? Bring me a denarius, and let me look at it." And they brought one. And he said to them, "Whose likeness and inscription is this?" They said to him, "Caesar's." Jesus said to them, "Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and to God the things that are God's." And they marveled at him. Some thoughts for today. Jesus tells a parable that is meant to convey the actions of the Jews towards the Son of God. The parable reaches back centuries to tell the patience and long-suffering of God towards his beloved people. Such was the fate of his people when Jerusalem was destroyed by the Babylonians. We read in 2 Chronicles chapter 36, verses 15 and 16, "The Lord, the God of their fathers, sent persistently to them by his messengers, because he had compassion on his people and on his dwelling place. But they kept mocking the messengers of God, despising his words and scoffing at his prophets, until the wrath of the Lord rose against his people, until there was no remedy." It seems as though the people which God seeks the most, in fact, those that reject him most vehemently. Yet God continues to seek them. How odd it seems when those whom God had put in charge of his vineyard are so reckless as stewards. Luke's account of this parable puts it this way. The owner of the vineyard said, "What shall I do? I will send my beloved son. Perhaps they will respect him." Luke chapter 20 and verse 13. Almost in desperation, when all other possibilities were exhausted, the owner sends that which was dearest to his heart. Yet, even that was not enough. At the heart of the parable, we are told the transient nature of all that we possess. Everything which we have has been rented, as it were, to us. Nothing that we have is really what we may claim as our own. All that we have in reality belongs to God already. In each of the three accounts in the Gospels, we find that Jesus ends the parable with a quote from Psalm 118. Have you not even read this scripture? The stone which the builders rejected, this became the chief cornerstone. This came about from the Lord, and it is marvelous in our eyes. Verses 10 and 11. Mark's account tells us that the Pharisees understood that Jesus was speaking about them. Yet, for fear of the people, they did not do anything to Jesus. Was it a natural human trait to deny the facts presented to them? Certainly, Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea, themselves part of the ruling class, knew that Jesus was no ordinary man. Perhaps there is a vulnerability that exists when someone is alone that will not be allowed when they are in a group. Something in the mob mentality that we simply cannot think for ourselves. Clearly, Jesus knew what his ultimate fate was to be. He also knew at whose hands that fate would rest. How difficult it must have been for Jesus to walk among the very people who would put him on that cross. A question of the day. Have you ever found yourself identifying with those characters in Jesus' parables? And finally, a thought to meditate on today. Considering the gentle nature of the message of grace in the Gospels, have you ever wondered at the violence at which such a message produces in people? And those are our thoughts for today, March the 5th.